For more than 147 years, the circus always came to town. Over those decades, millions of Americans flocked to the striped tent for a night of family entertainment underneath the big top. Strange and exotic animals, those amazing men on the flying trapeze, lion tamers, acrobats, and an army of clowns. Ask anyone, and they will tell you that the circus was the perfect place to get lost in the lights and all the excitement. And for some, it was the perfect place to get lost. Good evening. My name is Kent Morehouse, and this is Cold Case. Tonight, we pull back the flap of a circus tent in order to tell you our story. And in that tent, we find a man, a convict, a thief, and a murderer, who's also a clown and will leave you laughing. Tonight, for your consideration, we present the Bubbles Briefing. Harry Pike was a drifter from Alabama who loved his mother, the swimming hole down the road, and a large fried piece of Spam. Harry could never hold a job longer than a few weeks and spent much of his adult life traveling across this great country of ours. Harry Pike was last seen on May 14th, 2007, when the Barcelli Brothers Circus played its last show in Benson, Vermont. Circuses were closing all over the country, and thousands of performers were losing their jobs or being displaced in rural counties across America. When the Barcelli Brothers Circus closed on that fateful night, it did so with no notice and no warning. That night the curtain closed, and that was the last time anyone had seen Harry Pike, better known as Bubbles the Clown.
Well, I just knew it was going to end badly for that boy. He was just like his father. I said, shut up up there! Dogs. Now wait just 1 minute. Was Harry just like his father? Hold on now. Is Leroy? No, it wasn't Leroy. Bubba. Oh, Bubba had a body for sin. But he was shooting blanks, low sperm count. So it couldn't have been Bubba, no. Milton? That's it. Milton. Milton was Harry's father. That's right. Harry was just like his father. No good from the start. He used to like to wear my clothes, my underclothes, if you take my meaning. I didn't mind. Hell, it's all underwear when you get right down to it. And my father used to like to wear my mother's, so I just figured it was one of those little things that skips a generation.
Mom always liked Harry better than me. We slept in a bed till he was almost 14. Well, when one of the stepdaddies wasn't spending the night. I thought that was a bit strange. Not that he spent the night with her, sleeping in the same bed, but why was I involved? Why couldn't I sleep in there? I don't snore, and hell, I don't wet the bed. At least, well, I've been doing a lot better since I hit my 30s. Anyway, Mom always thought that Harry was destined to do good things. Well, he went and got himself killed. Hell, I could have done that.
And there lies the question. Was Harry Pike, also known as Bubbles the Clown, murdered? No one had seen him for more than 14 years, yet a body had not been recovered. Just a few pieces. Oddly enough, the Barcelli Brothers Circus, the circus where Bubbles had spent the majority of his clowning career, closed that very evening. Odin Barcelli and Harry Pike disappeared into the wind that night. Many of the performers did not have the money to return home to Alabama, the home base of their circus, and therefore They were forced to acclimate into New England. That's why we have jugglers in Berlin, why we have tigers in Augusta, and yes, why all the clowns are in Concord. Now, most of the performers, having forged relationships for decades, were lost. As a matter of fact, no one even realized that Harry Pike was missing until his fiancée, a Miss Lulu Baker, filed a missing persons report 3 weeks later.
So, I heard from my friend Essie. She's got that nail salon in the converted garage down the street there. Well, her husband's Fluffy, and Fluffy has the dog show in the circus. So he comes home one night, and of course he's got the dogs with him because the circus closed down. I couldn't believe it. Apparently, there was like some fight. Nobody's getting paid by the circus, by the Martelli brothers. They're gone, okay? So then Omar, the sword swallower, so he got the tent right next door to the office there, and apparently he heard Bubbles fighting with the brothers, which don't surprise me because the man's got a temper like the Tasmanian devil. Anyways, I didn't hear from him for like 4 months. 4 months I didn't hear from him, so I started to get worried. I mean, Bubbles is the love of my life. I love him. That's when I started getting the packages that I got worried.
It had been nearly 4 months since Fluffy the dog groomer returned home, and Lulu received a package. Now, she remembered the exact moment, as it was the same day her mail-order bride catalog arrived, a catalog she had been lobbying to be featured in. Unfortunately, once she opened that package, Lulu knew there would be trouble.
See, I've been studying to be a mail-order bride for the last 8 months. My guidance counselor told me it'd be good for my vocation. Anyways, where was I? Oh, Bubbles, right. So, all of a sudden, like 4 months later, I'm getting packages in the mail, and I'm thinking to myself, it's my birthday. It's not no anniversary. And, like, Jesus' birthday is 8 months away. So I thought that was a little bit weird. It's when I opened it, though, that's when I found out that there was a problem. You see, Bubbles, he usually keeps all his fingers with him. And I knew it was his because he tends to bite his nails.
Inside the package was Harry Pike's left pinky finger and a note. The note was from the kidnappers who demanded a ransom. Unfortunately, this confused Lulu because she knew she only had $5.42 in her checking account. She also knew that the local pawn shop did not open until 9 a.m. the next morning, and it was then, after much soul-searching, that she would finally pawn her great-grandmother's cubic zirconian. Not knowing what to do, she then finally turned to the authorities.
I knew there was a problem the moment I saw that finger. That's not intuition. That's experience. That's what being on the force for 30 years will get you. It gives you an eye into crime. I didn't need no superiors to be telling me that there was a problem. I saw a finger not attached to a hand, and I call that a crime.
Were you the first officer on the case?
Well, no. Initially, they thought this was just a missing persons case. But as Bubbles had no permanent address, he was considered a transient, and the state wouldn't take up the case. That's where I came in.
So you took over the investigation?
Well, investigation, that's a mighty big word. I prefer to think that I took matters in my own hands to help out an old friend.
Isn't it true that you yourself got arrested in Vermont for conducting the investigation?
Oh, no, hold on right there. That's not exactly what I'd
Isn't
say.
it true that you had been thrown off the Alabama police force for an incident involving the police chief's wife and a giant blow-up Gumby doll?
Okay, now, hold on a second there. That's all a matter of opinion. And might I state for the record, I have got a permit for that blow-up Gumby doll. Now, Mr. Newsman, let's not forget, I retired. That's what me and the department decided at the hearing. And so, Mr. Big Shot News Reporter, what are we investigating here? Me or Bubbles' murder? Because I was never charged with nothing here, and you told me if I sat down...
What did you find out?
I found out plenty. See, Mr. Pike, Bubbles, turns out that he had multiple wives in several states and more children than most elementary schools. Why, he also had a gambling problem. He owed money to everybody in that circus. He smoked, drank, overate, and in general had a bad disposition.
But was he murdered?
Harry Bubbles Pike was born at 2:30 in the morning on June 14th, 1970. He had one brother and one sister. The sister later died in a rogue tilt-a-whirl accident when she was 11. He was an average student, didn't play any sports, but was well known by the police of Billy Goat Creek. He tried his hand at college for 2 weeks before he announced to his mother that he had found his dream job.
I knew I wanted to be a clown. I was 24 years old, and I had already tried my hand at being a plumber's helper, a carpenter's apprentice, a house builder, a cement mixer, not one of those big trucks, but a man that mixes the cement, a gas station attendant, a plumber. Did I already say plumber? Yeah, a plumber, and a school bus driver, and a crosswalk guard. But that all changed when I saw a clown on the Ed Sullivan Show. And I knew for sure right then that that's what I wanted to be.
Yeah, a clown. You can imagine my overwhelming pride to find out that yet another member of my family was going to be laughed at publicly. There was nothing I could do to stop him. He quit a perfectly good night job stocking shelves at the Piggly Wiggly to start his training, as he called it. So now, instead of having a no-good, do-nothing son hanging around the house all day getting in my hair, I now had a no-good, do-nothing son trying to teach himself how to juggle. After about 3 days of that, I kicked him right out of my house.
And right into my arms. You see, Harry, sorry, Bubbles, he always hates it when I call him by his real name. He gets so mad. Man does have a temper on him, though. Not that bright either. In fact, he's like one toy short of a Happy Meal, if I'm being real honest. But I do love that man. What can I say? He completes me. He needed a place to stay, and I needed a selfish, worthless, jobless, pain in my butt of a man to complete my worthless existence. He didn't want his job to get in the way of his work or schooling or nothing. So I made all the money in the house. I worked the diner down the street 3 days a week, and whatever I brought home, what we lived on. It wasn't much. I mean, most nights we had to tear up some of the wall-to-wall carpeting and eat that. You know, funny enough, the stuff by the back door tastes the best. Those were our happy years.
By the time I met Bubbles, Mr. Pike, he had already spent quite a bit of time behind bars. Well, his first arrest, that was for a failed bank robbery attempt. You see, they hit up a small local bank. Everything was going just fine until all 17 of them bank robbers decided to try and get into one getaway vehicle. Well, there was no chance that they was all gonna fit in that car, especially since they was wearing size 40 shoes and big floppy hats. Well, they was sitting there still trying to pack themselves into that car when them local boys showed up. It's just like I always say. If you want to run with the big dogs, you cannot piss like a pup.
It was there that Harry Bubbles Pike was sentenced to 5 years for his part in the attempted robbery. He promised himself that he would spend all of that time behind bars wisely. It was in prison that Harry met a Mr. Hank Greeley, a mentor who would change Harry's life forever. Now, Harry knew that he wanted to entertain people, but it was in that prison that he made a decision that would change not only his life, but of all those around him. Harry wanted to be a clown, and he would spend the next 4.5 years at the Atmore Correctional Facility aiming for that goal. Hank Greeley was serving 15 years in prison for trying to pluck the night manager of the local Chick-fil-A. Apparently, there was a misunderstanding when the manager accused Greeley of trying to steal the recipe for their secret breading. It was then that the plucking began. He had attempted to do this to his own mother years before, giving him the nickname Mother Plucker. When not plucking, Greeley had spent the last 11 years working the circus boardwalk and convinced Bubbles that the circus was the place for him.
I know they are out there. What they don't know is that I could hear every word they are saying. They want something from me. I can tell. They always want something. But this time, they're not going to get it. They're not going to get it. No one tells Hank Greeley what to do. No one! So that damn fool Bubbles got himself lost. Doesn't surprise me. He knew his number, but nothing else. I knew Harry would never amount to a hill of beans, was always too big for his britches. They will find him, eventually. They just need to look in the right places. Maybe if they ask me real nice.
After prison, Harry Pike could not find work, so he set himself up as a mall store Santa Claus. Bubbles was now going by the name of Kris Kringle. Bubbles seemed to find the perfect job. He loved entertaining children. He loved sitting down for hours at a time without any physical exertion. But most of all, he loved that there was no breathalyzer test. He also loved pretending to be something, or rather, someone else.
You just never knew who was going to walk through that door, that's for sure. Every time he came home, he would tell me his name was something different. When I married him, he was Bubbles, but before long, I was married to Jason, Clarence, Murray, and Chester. Oh, I do sort of miss Chester. He always had a way with his hands, if you know what I mean. Anyway, he just couldn't decide who he wanted to be. I enjoyed all of them. In fact, I often asked if I could have all of them, all at the same time, just once. I think the question confused him. Anyway, I was gonna get his name tattooed over my heart, but I just couldn't decide which one to use. Now, I just hope he gets home safe and sound. Just not my home. Want to be clear about that.
Trudy stood by her man, but divorced him before he was released from prison. She worked the carnival at Billy Goat Creek just to try to make ends meet, and she finally secured that promotion running the spinning teacups. Now, one day, after Bubbles was released, she was on a much-needed break after a back-breaking 2-hour shift in the hot Alabama sun when she heard a gunshot. Then, the sirens. Scared, she smoked 3 more cigarettes and finished a half a cup of cold coffee that was sitting in a styrofoam cup left in the break room before she ran out to see what had happened.
Well, I just couldn't believe my eyes. There he was, sitting in teacup number 6, the one with the chip in it, of course, crying like a baby. See, he paid for the ride, and then this little girl with blonde pigtails, she wanted to ride in teacup number 6. So they asked him to move, and when he refused, well, she just started crying, and then that just set Bubbles to crying. He always got so emotional around children. You know, when he stood up, everybody thought he was just gonna get out of the teacup, but instead, he put one hand on his hip and the other hand in the air, and he started singing. I'm a little teacup, short and stout. Here is my handle, here is my spout. Well, apparently, one of the police officers thought Bubbles was gonna shoot somebody with his spout, so they fired a shot up into the air. It was all just a big misunderstanding. Then everybody just went about their business. You know, Bubbles and that little girl, they were actually great friends after that. Well, until she went missing. Oh, they looked, and well, I guess it was right about then that Bubbles just decided that his life was best spent under the big top.
He was nothing but trouble. From the moment I hired him, I knew it was a mistake. Maybe I'm just too nice of a guy. I give until it hurts. Well, anyway, I hire this Harry Pike, a.k.a. Bubbles the Clown, and I decide to team him with one of our little people. You see, Harry, Bubbles, was about 6'3", and so I thought if we teamed him with one of our little people, he'd be less threatening. Everybody who met him thought that was not a good idea, including Pepe, the poor clown we teamed him with. Anyway, Bubbles would throw Pepe in the air. You have to remember that Pepe was only 2 feet tall. So he tossed Pepe in the air, and all the kids in the audience would be screaming, "Yay! Higher, 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 higher!" Well, one time he tossed Pepe, and the dinner bell rang, so he went to lunch.
And?
Flat. Yes. Poor Pepe was never the same after that. He talked to himself more, walked around in circles looking at the ground like he lost something.
So you kept Bubbles working?
Of course we did.
Even after with all the troubles that you had with Bubbles at the circus?
You know how people like to pick at things until they unravel. The usual complaints. You have to understand that adults make mistakes with their language when working with kids. You have to understand that sometimes there is confusion with boundaries. And then these overprotective parents would get excited about a misunderstanding. I don't know, like the smell of liquor or a pistol or a knife.
I beg your pardon, he would have weapons around the children?
Life is full of danger. You have to learn young. We all walk on a tightrope. You get it? It's a little circus humor. I got a million of them.
Can we get back to the complaint?
I really have to find a new line of work. This one is too intense. Get it?
I get it. I believe you were about to tell me about the parents' complaints.
Right. It was spoiled sport. Anyway, these overprotective parents would get all excited about something that happened, and they would decide to press charges. You know, little Davy disappeared for an hour. Bubbles was too rough. My kid had all her teeth when she arrived here. You know, ridiculous things like that. And then these overprotected mothers, they would do anything to keep their kids safe. Oh, I can't stand them.
Even after all this trouble, you kept Bubbles at the circus.
Did I have a choice? Bubbles could be very persuasive. People who argue with Bubbles somehow seem to disappear.
Do you mean he would threaten you?
Threat is a very strong word. Let's just say he was very persuasive. Sometimes he would suggest that we sell off equipment that we were no longer using because it wasn't safe. He would.
There were also some reports that some of the equipment was out of order.
I can't believe this. I thought we were here to talk about Bubbles. All you people in the media are the same. One or two kids go missing and you blame it on the circus.
But these children did disappear underneath your big top.
No. The big top was the last place they were seen. They did not disappear under the big top. For all I know, somebody could have drove them there. They dropped them off. The kids called a cab, went to town, and were watching an R-rated movie.
The two kids that were missing were only 7 years old.
And watching an R-rated movie. Bad parenting, if you ask me. They were probably drinking and smoking, too.
Weren't you closed down in Ohio?
No, we were not closed down. We shut down voluntarily because there was a misunderstanding with the bearded lady.
Yes, I spoke to her. Apparently, she was forcibly shaved.
According to her. Oh, come on, this is so ridiculous. How do you forcibly shave somebody? What do? You tie them down? You lather them against their will? This is so ridiculous. Besides, Bubbles had an alibi. I could bring witnesses who will testify in a court of law that that woman was a phony, that she actually glued her beard to her face.
If that was the case, then weren't you perpetuating a fraud?
Oh, who's talking about fraud all the time? All of a sudden. Listen, I only came here to talk to you to try to help the families. And now you're making all these baseless accusations, impugning my character. You know, I think I should call a lawyer.
Can we get back to Bubbles?
Hello? Hey! I can't hear you. Are you there? I think we're losing the connection. Are you there? Hello? Hello? Asshole.
Despite what Odin Barcelli had to say, there were problems at the circus, and those problems were all named Bubbles. It seemed that he just wanted to have fun. According to those who wish not to be named, Bubbles was the enforcer of the circus. He dictated the rules and demanded money when those rules were broken. After an accident occurred on the Turkish Twist, when Bubbles had canceled scheduled maintenance just to save money, performers started leaving the circus. But they were far from quiet.
Everything changed once Bubbles came to the circus. Before, we were all a family. And now, working here has become a nightmare. Bubbles put red pepper in my makeup, and I got second-degree burns on my face. He deflated all the balloons on the boulevard. He took all the sugar out of the cotton candy. He loosened the wires on the trapeze. All the other clowns are afraid of him. But I've had enough. He may be taller than I am. He may have longer feet than I have. His nose may be redder than mine, but it's time for Bubbles to get popped.
Yeah, things weren't going that well. I mean, after a while I got nervous, so I went down to Kentucky after a few months to go see if I could find Bubbles. And when I got down there, things was weird. I mean, everybody was on edge and scared of Bubbles. And apparently, I heard from the clowns down there, he was taking all of the bigger rides apart and selling the metal for scrap metal. Apparently, he was making more money tearing that circus apart than he was working at it. Can you imagine? The stupidest thing I ever heard. So anyways, Bubble, he's kind of a unique big guy. And it don't surprise me that he's trying to find ways to make money in his life. I mean, look at his mother. She's dirt poor, and it's a unique upbringing if you ask me. The boys, they was always good at playing the game.
And he always wanted to play it. You see, growing up in Alabama as a child, there wasn't a lot to do. So young folks like me, we had to be creative. See, we didn't have a lot of money. Any money we did get, Mama would spend it on beer for Daddy of the Day. Mama used to go into Fairhope to work the bars, as she used to say. That's how she made her money. And every Sunday, we'd wake up, be a new daddy sleeping over at the house. So you see, some of them stayed at night, some of them stayed a day, some of them spent a week. One guy even spent 3 months. He left though, saying that Mama had sucked the soul out of his body, whatever that meant. Anyway, so the game was, we were supposed to guess their name before they left. One time we even got it right. Wayne. Well, that's what we did as children. It was either that or putting firecrackers in the frogs' mouths and watching where all the pieces went after the cracker exploded. Those were the days. Those were the days.
Unusual days at best. Unfortunately for Bubbles, his childhood was not what most would consider normal. He only went to school up to the 9th grade, but was allowed into the community college mainly because was that no one in town wanted to tell him he could not go. Though Bubbles was never an ideal student, he did have a head for numbers, which would serve him later in his life.
That boy would always do whatever he wanted, no matter what I said. For example, he used to like to chew on electrical cords because he liked to see the sparks coming out of his mouth. Quiet up there, you damn dogs! Don't you know we're filming down here? Sorry about that. Yes, like I said, I always thought it was because he was just, a few chickens short of a full coop. But I guess it takes all kinds to make this silly world go round. Just like I always used to say, life is like a tilt-a-whirl. Either you buckle up and enjoy the ride, or you find somebody to hold your hair back so you can throw up.
For years, Bubbles entertained children in a number of circuses that crisscrossed this great country of ours. Eventually, trouble would find him and he would be forced to move on to the next job in the next town for the next circus. It was with the Barcelli Brothers Circus that everything started to go bad for him. Fellow performers said he could not control his temper or his taste for the bottle. Unfortunately, this was at the same time most people across the country started to turn away from the circus.
Well, you can't blame Bubbles for the demise of the circus, though he was everything most people hate about it. Bubbles was what you call a team player. He would do anything to help the circus survive. I mean, he was willing to mistreat an animal as easily as the next guy, but nobody ever asked him to. Really was a gentle giant.
With escalating operating costs, declining ticket sales, and attacks from groups like PETA, who shined a light on some of the unsavory practices used to motivate circus animals, circuses were no longer at the beating heart of America. For the Barcelli Brothers Circus, and for Bubbles, the days of the big top were numbered. With circuses disappearing daily, it seemed fitting that Bubbles, too, would just vanish.
My client was last seen on May 14th, 2007, when the Barcelli Brothers Circus played Benson, Vermont. officers were sent to the circus with an arrest warrant for Mr. Harry Pike, aka Bubbles, my client. The officers said that Bubbles broke into a liquor store, nearly killed the clerk, stole the cash register, and made his getaway in a 2-foot-tall Volkswagen Beetle with daisies on the hood. Please, like Bubbles would have daisies on the hood. I don't think so. But that's not all. They then claim that he went to the joke shop, nearly killed that clerk, and proceeded to steal all the whoopee cushions and wiener whistles in the place. My client is innocent. Bubbles wouldn't do that. Not that he was actually arrested, mind you. No, those officers never did present my client with the arrest warrant when he was last seen leaving the Big Top that night at 7 p.m. on that fateful day. I tell you, this is the kind of stuff that gets me steamed. People will say, Mr. Source say, did you really pass the bar? And I say, oh, hell no, honey, I didn't pass that bar. I went in it and got me a mint julep. Woo! Praise Jesus. Sweet baby Jesus. WWBD, what would Bubbles do?
This is Mary Hubbard here on day 2 and still no sign of Harry Pike, aka Bubbles the Clown. Police put out an all-points bulletin for the overtly large clown following his disappearance after the closing of the Barcelli Brothers Circus last night. This is Mary Hubbard reporting, WTFU, Channel 13.
Oh, finally! Jesus, I thought you guys had forgotten about me. Well, this is where I get involved. You see, them local Vermont boys, they couldn't get out of their own way. They had already presented enough evidence so that they could get a warrant, but they couldn't find that clown to deliver it to him. So, I heard from Miss Trudy Washington, his ex-wife. Well, she hadn't seen a child support payment in 6 months, and she had quite a bit to say.
Well, I just feel like I should say right off the bat that we never had any children. I just can't stand kids. Well, some women are just born to be mothers, but I just feel like I was born more to be a convenience store clerk. Yeah, I just couldn't bring myself to, well, you can imagine. Here I am, a young, vibrant, alluring woman. What am I supposed to do with a 6'3" clown? Have sex with it? I don't think so. I will do a lot of things for money, but sleeping with my husband is not one of them. Anyway, I told Bubbles I would agree to a divorce if he agreed to pay me child support. He just wanted out of the marriage, so he agreed. Everything was fine until about 6 months ago, and then it all just stopped. So, I called up my sister's ex-husband, Lyle Ottaway. He's a local detective. And I told him I would do
anything, and I mean anything. If I was to go up to Vermont and find her ex-husband and get her that child support, now look, I don't know much, but I do know when Trudy offers, this officer jumps and says, how high? Not that I've jumped much in 15 years. Look, when I retired, I was looking for a change, and her name was Trudy. So, I figured a nice long drive would do the trick. I hopped in my truck and headed up to Vermont, the state where they make toothpaste. First day I was there, I met somebody.
Who was not to be trifled with. This retired detective was hired by the ex-wife of my client to help the local police, who still had no idea where Bubbles was. So, these northern boys can't get the job done. They have to add in another man, and I'm the fool? I don't think so. Now, to complicate matters, the night they tried to serve Bubbles the warrant, the night he was last seen, was also the night that
the circus closed for good. There was nothing we could do about it. We weren't making any money. Attendance had been slipping, And since they stopped using the animals, people were not coming to the circus. The circus made a little money on concession and selling off the old carnies to the dog food factory, but it wasn't enough. After a long discussion, Bubbles and I decided to
skip town, just like that. Odin Barcelli was last seen closing up the ticket booth around 9:30 p.m. Flora, the dog lady, said she saw his car was gone from the parking lot shortly after 10 p.m. No one can remember seeing Bubbles after the 7 p.m. show. So they just closed up, everybody went to bed, and then in the morning,
all hell broke loose. You see, one of them trapeze artists went looking to get paid from Mr. Barcelli, and it was discovered that he had blown town with the receipts from the past 2 weeks. Nobody got paid. Some of the other performers, they noticed that a lot of the rides and equipment had been hauled away overnight. There was panic everywhere. Nothing like watching a bunch of freaks running around like crazy people. So I pulled out my lawn chair out the back of my truck, grabbed a couple of beers, and watched the crazies go crazy. Hell, it was so crazy, I felt like I was at the
Republican National Convention. It was pandemonium. People were packing up their trailers, looking for different ways to get home. Here, in the middle of nowhere, these poor performers were left in the middle of the night to fend for themselves by those treacherous Barcelli brothers. Shameful! Then it was that Pepe, of all people, realized Bubbles was gone. No one could find him anywhere. The one thing that was sure was that
his finger! His finger! What am I supposed to do with that? That's not even the best part. I mean, I heard from Essie that the circus was closing down. I mean, it happens. Factories closed, businesses shut down. It's not a surprise or nothing. If it weren't for that trickle-down economics thing, I don't even know where I'd be. It's just a high power came down and helped Bubbles give me the finger. Maybe it was Jesus. You know, I heard that he was burned into a piece of toast down the street at the diner. Anyways, it wasn't until I started getting packages in the mail, I thought Bubbles might be in some trouble.
In the rubble of the closed-down circus, the police started looking for clues. Americans, young and old, were fascinated with the disappearance of Bubbles the Clown. All of those involved with the case became tabloid stars. Through their investigation, the police discovered that Bubbles had 3 wives in 3 states and was heavily invested in Bitcoin. Unfortunately, he was unable to access that money as he had forgot his password. He was also listed as one of the owners of a scrap metal company based out of Mississippi. Now, some of Bubbles' blood was discovered on the ear of one of the horses of the carousel, but the police had little else to go on. Instead of searching for clues, the police thought maybe their answer was in the past.
I don't know what else I can tell you. Bubbles, got bored quickly, which is why I think he got married so often. You know, deep down inside though, Bubbles is a bit of a romantic. He used to always say that marriage is between a man and a woman and they become one. Trouble starts when they try to decide which one. I think because of his size though, that's why he needed more than one woman. I couldn't handle more than one woman, but that's me. Just ask my wives. Anyway, I believe that love is one long, sweet dream. Your marriage is the alarm clock. You know, I'm not even sure I like women. Jesus, maybe I'm gay. Are you allowed to be gay in Alabama?
What did he just say? Jesus, now I have a gay son? What the hell am I supposed to do with that? I was thinking about redecorating. Wendell, get down here, and you better bring some damn swatches with you. Well, I had no idea there was a problem until the police showed up at my door. Apparently, the authorities now thought that instead of just being missing, Harry might actually be dead. I guess that they said that a bunch of his fellow performers got together and decided to kill him. Well, they had a vote and everything. Democracy at work, I guess. But why is the mother always the last to know? Harry dead? My poor baby dead? I guess it could be worse. He could be gay too.
With nothing to go on, the police once again decided to interview Bubbles' cellmate Hank Greeley in an effort to get some answers.
I knew you'd come back here eventually. They all do. I think I look pretty. Boo! So now everyone wants to talk to Buttercup. I was the best clown there ever was. I never could understand why there were some who were afraid of me. Didn't they know that all I wanted to do was make them laugh? To give them a smile? Something to think about when they go to sleep? Now they want me to help them find Bubbles. They'll never find him. They're looking in all the wrong places.
This is Mary Hubbard from WTFU. It's been nearly a year since any trace of Bubbles the Clown have been found. Police are still unsure if they're on a missing persons or a murder case. All we know is the latest piece of the strange puzzle have been found today. Police believe that this red nose had been worn by none other than Bubbles himself. This is Mary Hubbard from WTFU. Are they kidding me? Red nose?
We served a Mr. Hank Greeley a deposition to appear. However, because he is now currently serving, let's see here. Yes, a 15-year sentence for attempting to pluck the night manager of a Chick-fil-A. Did he really do that? I like this guy. Unfortunately, we cannot compel Mr. Gimble to help us with the remainder of this investigation. However, perhaps we would just do better with some gravy, mashed potatoes, and cornbread. Can I get an amen? Oh, I am hungry.
Huh? What? Oh, well, I did not find Bubbles, but I did find Mr. Barchilli himself. You see, the day after the close of the circus, there was a report on the evening news about this guy who was hauling a Ferris wheel up the interstate. Well, as you can imagine, them local boys, they took some interest in that. And when they questioned him, he donated that Ferris wheel to the town. They called him a hero. Well, I hopped right in my truck and headed up there to interview Mr. Barchilli myself before he could skip town again.
I don't know what you are talking about! I haven't seen Bubbles since the night we closed the circus! It was a crazy time. As soon as I saw the police, I thought I'd just better get out of there. Of course, we got separated on the highway, but all I wanted to do was to liquidate the assets so we could pay the performers who worked so hard to make the children happy. Are we done here? Can you untie me now? You want to leave me tied up? Really? I've been a bad boy? Can you call me Connie?
A
According to the Vermont police, all of the Barcelli brothers' assets had been frozen due to the outcome of the investigation. The only clue that they had was a drop of Harry Pike's blood on the ear of one of the carousel horses. For more than 6 years, there was no new evidence until a young man in Adrian, Texas, decided to explore his roots by first stealing a DNA kit from the local Walmart.
Well, I have no idea what the hell was going on before the police broke down my door. From what I understand, the man they think is my father has been missing the past 6 or 7 years. I told them the man they were looking for couldn't be my daddy because he was not missing. I know he travels a lot, but he takes good care of Mama and me. He's an important man. He brings joy throughout the country by making children smile. You'd think he was magic, but all he does is sell bubbles. He loves seeing the faces of the small children when the bubbles float in the air. He sells it all over the country. Come to think of it, he has not been around here a while. I'm sure he's fine. You gotta go where the work is. That's what he always says. I'm just so interested to see him because I've decided what I want to do with the rest of my life. I want to be a clown.
This is Mary Hubbard. Hold on. Is this real news? Or the police haven't found another wiener whistle or box of Cracker Jacks? Anyone know where I can get a drink around here?
Well, I knew that sooner or later I'd get a break, and it came in the form of one Lulu Baker, my girlfriend. From what I can gather, this Lulu woman filed a wrongful death suit against the Barcelli Brothers Circus. It would appear that Miss Baker discovered that even though the circus was closed, that insurance company, they'd still have to pay, if she could prove that he'd been killed. Once again, Miss Lulu gave this investigation the finger.
I just want what's rightfully mine. I work hard, and all I want is for the memory of my dearly departed Bubbles to live on.
It seems your circumstances have changed.
Yes, well, thanks to the masses that are grieving with me and their generosity and financial support. You see, Bubbles touched the lives of so
Are
many...
you under investigation by the IRS?
I assure you, that is a normal audit, and all it's going to show
Is it true that you filed your taxes last year in the amount of $9,000, but currently hold a stock portfolio worth almost $3 million?
Well, my little old mind, I can't seem to recall. Things seem to get twisted sometimes. I was never that good with the numbers. That was always Bubbles. Did you want to see his finger? I've got it right in the freezer. I can go get it for you if you want. It's right next to the Ben & Jerry's.
There was no way she was getting away with this one. No, sirree, Bob, not on my watch. From what we've been able to piece together over the years, a blank trust fund was opened under her name a mere 8 months after the circus closed. Apparently, a Pepe construction was going all around the country buying up old circus equipment and depositing the proceeds into a series of numbered accounts that the IRS are investigating currently. This folks right here may be the very lead, the first one into finding the whereabouts of Mr. Harry Hack.
I swear to you, I haven't seen him in almost 10 years. You know, I do miss him though. I mean, he was almost like a brother to me. Anyway, life moves on. And in his memory, I named my first son after him. Bubbles Bonham Pike. I never thought I wanted children. But you know, after a good life, a good wife, and a good job, children just seemed inevitable. I just had to find a woman that wanted a child with me.
I just love being a mother. That's right. I married Bubbles' brother, Chester. Now, I don't know how you all do things up north, but this is normal in Alabama. I actually have a brother who's also my cousin and my stepdaddy, all at the same time. Anyway, after we fell in love, and then after he got that good job at Pepe Construction, it just seemed like the natural thing to do. I certainly hope that anyone out there listening remembers that promises were made and secrets were kept. Even though Bubbles gave his life to entertain others, well, we must all just go on. And in order to do that, it is important that deposits are made on time, or else I might just forget myself. Now you all have a good day.
Nearly 10 years later, and there are still questions concerning Bubbles' whereabouts. Was Harry Pike murdered? Or facing a barrage of charges, did he simply choose to just disappear? Traces of his blood were found, but no body was ever recovered. Nearly a decade has gone by, and there are still questions regarding the closing of the circus and the whereabouts of Bubbles the Clown.
There comes a time when you just have to move on. After I closed the circus, I moved to Adrian, Texas. I went into partnership in a scrap metal business with a former employee that buys up discarded rides and circus equipment. And the rest is history. I make 10 times the money now, and I'm in bed by 10 p.m. every night. I guess this is what you call the American dream.
Oh, it's you again. I've told you time and time again that I have no idea as to